What's up, guys? It's your boy, 22K13. I'm going to talk about the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt 10 glaring flaws that immediately crippled it. Today is another sad day as another hugely anticipated game has finally been released, only for what you be putting your hard-earned cash down to be less than perfect in many core ways. Now, right off the bat, this isn't an article bashing the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. There are some truly spectacular sights and sounds CD Projekt Red has labored over putting together for years now, and things like the jaw-dropping visual, voice acting, general use of the world lore, and overall scale of production are absolutely mind-blowing. The Witcher 3 is one hell of an achievement. The problem is, like Dragon Age Inquisition, it's the most basic of core problems that forever get in your way of enjoying everything else. So far, although many reviewers on sites like IGN and GameSpot have sang the game praises and awarded it 9.3 and 10 out of 10 respectively, it feels like another case of critics and gamers actively wanting to like what's in front of them as opposed to admitting a few things can derail the experience. Again, that's not to say that the content of the review isn't worthwhile, but there are many elements within Wild Hunt that feel severely undercut, especially after the game has released, and for a title that has been receiving near anonymous praise, it's very much worth pointing them out. So whether you played the previous title and love them, or are thinking of getting on board with this latest entry, by all means do so. There's a lot to like here. There are a number of obvious and crippling issues that must be addressed regardless. Number 10. Growl movement feel broken. The second Witcher game, Assassin of Kings, elected to have Growl essentially respond to whatever you were pushing the stick at any time, regardless of his current trajectory and the momentum that would come with it. Yes, it could look a little daft doing an about face and turning around suddenly, but the key word was responsiveness, something that's sadly been lost in W3. Go out now move with a defined weight and priority of animation, meaning there is a second or two of him coming to a stop or enacting a turn before it actually happens. It obviously sounds like nitpicking, but when you can't rely on your own character to move through the world, adequately mount his horse or swim underwater without darting off in every other direction, it's infuriating. Such a simple thing stood out ever more because we didn't even think CD Projekt would be changing up such a simple part of the game. Instead, by forcing the White Wolf to feel more like you driving him than controlling a character model, it's hampering the most basic feelings of movement in the process. Number 9. The frame rate is buggy as hell. Depending on your platform of choice, this particular issue will have varied degree of application, as it seems if you're in possession of a healthy PC rig, everything can run liquid smooth. Not so on consoles though, as even trying to move the camera as you rattle around, something that gamers tend to do when your game looks this good, result in a jerky and stilted motion. After a few seconds, things normalize as the game seemingly recognizes what you're trying to do. But as far as whipping the view around to catch a sunset to your side as you ride past, forget about it. Worse still is a strange bug, so far only seen on PS4, where when riding for a prolonged period of time, if you try and maneuver the camera in a certain direction, it whips 90 degrees in the opposite, meaning you have to manually rewrite it. Such strange issues should be ironed out in various stages of development. and it's a real shame that they persist, especially seeing Wild Hunt receive a delay from last year to smooth everything out. Number 8. Map and world tester continually disappear. Thought we seen the last of Tester Pop with the jump to new consoles? Think again, as although Witcher game engine isn't the notoriously plain looking Unreal engine when it doesn't load. Many times when it shifts focus to a new part of the world and cutscene, the respective texture for walls and scenery won't have loaded in. In addition to this idea of the basic element not appearing when they should, users have reported things like the water texture turning solid black before popping back in, and from first-hand experience, there have been multiple instances where the mini-map flashes to black before restoring itself again. The Witcher game has certainly never been perfect, and fans of Bushido-style world-first, polish-later approach to games most likely won't mind either. But it's still very off-putting when a brand new title, also doubling as a landmark release for next-gen hardware, can't hold its most basic element together. Number 7. Combat feels very unresponsive. In the many videos that shown Witcher Combat off before release, it essentially looked like they adopted the Batman, Sleeping Dog, Shadow of Mordor style of doing things more than before. A belt with a reliance on stat crunching to see what weapons do the most damage, before speeding accordingly. The past game had this in place as a framework too, but also brought in Dark Souls style lock-on to let you crowd manage group of foes. For part 3 is more of the same, except for some reason CD Projekt has switched up the control scheme to make it fall more in line with titles like the Souls series. Basically, you now have 2 separate dodge animations and 2 attack on the face button, with spells, items, inventory wheel toggles on the shoulders, something that made worse in frantic combat when the spell sign will refuse to pop up until you free from engaging a foe again. Witcher 2 lets you assign spell to a hotkey mid-dodge, which had been removed, and when you factor in that enemy lock-on is contingent on you keeping them in your view. Even the opening Griffin boss come across as more of a battle with the controller than anything else. Number 6. Animation take priority over everything. In both general world transversal and combat, you forever at the mercy of whatever motion Zero is playing out before he responds to your next input. With them not being queued up either, get the timing wrong on bringing up your inventory if you still recovering from a roll and it simply won't trigger. Nor will things like dismounting the horse if you too quick to hop across the button instead of waiting for the game to be ready. Your crossbow tool is given to Gerard at a quick fire rate of felling airborne beasts and keeping others at bay. But in practice, with all the other elements in play, it's very rare that you get a shot off when it's needed most. This isn't to mention that the very run you do into a pack of enemies takes priority over pulling out a blade. So chances are the start of many encounters will be you getting hit first. In terms of getting around the world, you do now have a jump button, a first for the series, but if you were expecting to simply run around and tap SA to pick up the spoil of war from the ground like before, Wild Hunt insists you stop, look close to the spot where the item itself is, and then tap pick it up. It's these minor things that stick out far more than anything more immediately game breaking, as when your previous title didn't have such issues it's going to be the first thing fans notice, and the reason newcomers get instantly put off. Number 5. Wish your senses feel claustrophobic. Another shame for the worst is what used to be a tap of your emulate to highlight items of interest in the world around him, now called wish your senses. You used to send out a post which would ping back and highlight said item, but now you hold down a button that forces the camera literally right onto your shoulder. It's not too intrusive indoor as you most likely confined to a smaller space and are breathing in the decor anyway. But outside when you tracking down the footprint of all manner of creatures, having this bizarre, almost first-person-like camera which is extremely unwieldy. Couple it with your penchant for darting off in the wrong direction and it doesn't leave the best impression. Number 4. Your horse rarely work. Although Red Dead Redemption proved horses can be a worthwhile gameplay component, as well as a valuable method of traversal around that respective world. Sadly in Witcher 3, your Steve Roche almost unamably doesn't do what you want him to. Firstly, one of the things you told is if when riding you hold the sprint button. He travels automatically to your destination, following the dotted line outlined on your minimap. Not so. Simply put, Roche AI can't take corners of anything more than a few degrees, and he bulk off down a different route or straight through the middle of a forked path if you not manage him directly. Secondly, somewhat like Red Dead, he gets snagged on trees and environmental objects, and immersion breaking bugs that sure can't be helped considering the size of the game world, but happen far too frequently all the same. Already covered is the pain of trying to mount him effectively and coming up against all the overlapping animation priorities therein. But far worse is after you atop him and attempting some mounted combat, it's now impossible to line up your sword swing in any satisfying way without feeling like you forcing the game into a state it can't handle. Number 3. The menu system can be very hard to read, understand. Even on a suitably large TV, texted in this author case on a 50-inch, many items within the inventory space aren't readable in a large enough text size to get around you. You really focusing on them. It's a bit reminiscent of Dead Rising problem way back in 2006, where the text was so small you had to make sure you were piping it through an HD cable to get enough fiddly to make out the font. Whistle menus aren't that bad, but in general the menu shop layout isn't very intuitive, especially in comparison to Witcher 2. When looking at NPC stock, you now presented with a large grid showing everything they have for sale, instead of the previous breakdown by category, something that strangely exists on your end if you like to sell. Also removed is the inspect option from before that will provide a more layman breakdown of what said item is going to do. Meaning if an item recover vitality, you got no idea how many points they're worth until you buy one and try it out. All of this results in you thumbing through every small icon and reading the tiny paragraphs that pop up to get a basic idea of what you're about to purchase, which feel like quite a step back when these details were included in the last game. Number 2. Loading times are worse than Bloodborne. So far it seems that the 20 to 50 second loading time you experience are dependent on what state you were in when Jell bit the dust, as say you out in the middle of nowhere, having a jolly old adventure. The reloading of whatever city you last stayed in caused the game to struggle. On the flip side, if you playing on the higher difficulty, for example, and bite it in just the few despite it in just the first few areas, it would appear the assets are already loaded in, meaning you can respond far faster. The problem seems to be down to forcing the game to revisit areas it previously moved on from, as presumably that's how 3D projects have managed to get such a gargantuan and detailed work to steam off the disk in essentially one piece. An upside is no longer having loading screens for every single doorway, but there's still a quick cut to black when you talk to any character of importance. Combined is very jarring, and between the graphical bugs, camera hiccups, and conversations that jump between various animation states, it can make for an experience that looks absolutely gorgeous in screenshots, but in motion is spotty at best. And number one, the lore is still impenetrable to newcomers. This is included last as it's going to be a very divisive point. Understandably, with a series that was first born in short stories, expanded into a string of novels, and then gained by way of an inspiring by tie-in, there's a huge amount of backstory, character motivation, and reason behind every part of the continent itself. If Skyrim is Lord of the Rings with all its overblown spectacle-filled fantastical set pieces, then The Witcher is Game of Thrones, where you need to pay attention to which lord is mounting an offensive in which direction, who's screwing over who, and what it all means for you taking it all in. The game opens with a pre-rendering cutscene that goes back over the major event of both your and the world life, and there are many things you can infer from the scene with Ciri and her training to be the first female Witcher afterward. But aside from that, the game just buckled under its own weight. There are so many references to towns, cities, kings, noblemen, and past characters, all with a stake in where the story is hidden, that if you haven't taken the time out to previously familiarize yourself with the difference between something like the confluence of spear and what a source is, you be left totally confused. Slightly misguided is a scene where you can return the event of the previous game through dialogue options, Mass Effect 2 style, but without the appropriate backstory or prompt to read up on what you committed to through an in-game database available at the time. You essentially flying blind. Well, that's it, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next one. Peace.